How does the complexion of the draft change once the Blackhawks make their pick if the conventional wisdom is Hughes and Capper going first?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting after that because I think, whether, teams pick the best player available or pick for need, it could fall in a lot of different ways. And I feel like at 10, we're in a good position again that we're going to end up with a player that we really like.
Like, what about, how do you think that because there seems to be a lot of forwards at the top of the class, how does that change the complexion for teams looking at the defensemen with so few, listed in the top 12?
Well, I think what will happen is we'll see defensemen that teams really have a good feel for, that really like, that are going to be sprinkled in that top 12 that maybe, the experts don't have them going that high, but teams, have done their homework, they really like the player, and they'll draft them. So, that's the unknown for us, is how many of those type scenarios occur but we're in a spot where there's enough good players where we're going to end up with a good player at 10.
Jim, lots of American players in the top 10. Their development program, why do you think it's been successful and has turned out guys like that?
Well, first off, they're pulling in all the best players from all over the U.S. to play in the program, right? So, right off the top, they're getting the cream of the crop as far as talent is concerned, and then they do a really good job, with their coaches, teaching the players on ice, their off-ice program, strength and conditioning. It's been a real good development model that Jim Johansson started there, and it's shown to be successful through the years.
How do you measure, a guy, if they're all playing, great guys are playing with each other, how do you kind of weigh that are they just get good because they're playing with other good players, or are they good because of...
No, well, that's the tough part, because with that team, their power play, every one of those guys could end up going in the top 15, all 5 of them, right? They're all really good players. So, but I think we look at players individually, and the things that they're capable of doing. And but I expect that, they're going to have a lot of guys drafted in the first round and a lot of guys high.
Jim, with your RFAs, will Granlund and Goldobin get qualified?
We're going to see what happens here the next 2 or 3 days, just as far as, if we can try to make improvements, and then we'll sit down Sunday and have a better idea as to who we're going to QO and who we're not going to.
What about Ben Hutton?
Like I said, we're got 2 or 3 days here through the draft. We have to get the QOs off on Monday, so we'll talk about things Sunday and make decisions based on what happens in the next couple days.
Have you thought about moving the 10th pick to add on defense now?
I've kept all of our options open, including trying to trade up, trying to trade down. We really like a lot of players after we pick at 10 that, so I'm looking at everything. I'm keeping an open mind, and we're gonna go into the draft, see how it plays out, but I'm looking at everything.
If you have to do background checks, did you have to do any scouting in the Yukon on Cousins in some ways? Because it's a unique story there.
Yeah, he's, we seen him play enough during the course of the year, through his interview, so we didn't have to dig too deep on him. He's an excellent player, he's a great kid, so we didn't have to do anything extra.
I was kind of joking, but you don't have to make any scouting trips up to the Yukon, I guess.
No, we could. I see him play 3 times in Seattle, Everett, Vancouver, and you don't have to go far to be able to see him play.
Jim, you had mentioned a few times that you were planning to reach out to Louis Eriksson to get to the sort of bottom of the comments that he had made. Have you ever been able?
I've been so busy, to be quite honest with you, Jeff, that I've tried to call him a couple times. I haven't. He hasn't got back to me, and I haven't followed up with it because I've been busy getting ready for the draft and then free agency.
Have you spoken to his agent about it?
Yeah, I spoke to his agent about it, JP Barry. We've talked about it, but I haven't made contact with Louis.
You mentioned the combine interviews. We talked about Cousins. Did that actually change any of your rankings with you and your scouting team?
No, I think the combine for us is just another way to get to know the players better. We watch them play all season long. It's a way for us to, get to spend some time with them, get to know them better, as the physical testing is. These are, now, these are decisions that we want to, make the right decisions. They're tough decisions. So we try to find out everything we can about players before we draft them, so there's no surprises after.
Does getting Edler done, does that change your mindset at all heading into the draft? Do you want to fill that back end at all?
Well, no, because we're still, all along we were hoping to get Edler done, and we still would like to try to improve our back end if we can. So, it happened now, so it's good for us going into free agency and stuff, but all along we were kind of hoping that was something that we'd get done.
Jim Oligulev's been skating for a couple of weeks now. Do you have an update on him?
No, he's going through his physical therapy. He's right on schedule. Like you said, he's been skating. Everything's been good that way. And he should be ready to go for training camp.
How does his injury factor into the sort of decision to keep Edler around?
Well, I don't, he's had some tough luck with injuries this last year, and he was playing really good for us in Utica, but then ended up, playing 18 games and missing the rest of the season. So, he's going to have to get back on the ice and get up and going, but we're hoping that at some point this year he's going to be ready to play NHL games for
Plan
us.
you had last year, which was playing in the second half, essentially
Yeah.
the plan now next year that he'll get.
I think so, depending on how he looks at camp, if he comes in and, he looks really good and deserves to be on the team, we'll make a spot for him and he'll be on the team. Yeah, it's going to be how he performs at training camp, that'll be up to him.
Seattle's still a few years away from inevitability. But the fact that they have a presence here and the Pacific Northwest being represented, what does that mean? Does it register with maybe a team like the Canucks in that
Yeah, I
sense?
think it does because, they're going to be our closest team. They'll be our biggest, our rival per se. And so, from other perspectives too, I talked to some other general managers. We have this rookie tournament in Penticton every year that we're hoping to revive and stuff, and hopefully they'll be part of that process of getting that tournament back up and going again. So I think it's exciting for our fan base that they're joining the league, and it should be a great franchise in Seattle. It's a good hockey town, so it should be fun.
You ever talked to Quinn about Jack? I know you don't figure on drafting Jack, but
we know, I've spent a lot of time, last year when we drafted Quinn, Jack was in the room, right? He was after he got drafted. So we spent a lot of time with Jack last year, and, we spent a lot of time with him this year. And so he's a confident kid. He's a great player. I don't expect it to be there at 10.
Quinn hasn't been. Did he lobby you at any point? You got to move up and try and get him around?
Yeah, I had conversations, but they just last long.
What were your impressions of Jack when he was in the room? I mean, you must have known the type of player he was back then.
We watched him lots play last year. He's a fantastic player. He's got a different personality than Quinn. Jack is full of confidence, and he's a confident kid. I'd say Quinn's a little bit more humble, and but they're both great kids and great players.
Jim, just to clarify on the Edler contract, the second year, has he accepted that he would be exposed to be eligible for the expansion draft? Because normally didn't.
So what happened with that, so you guys know, is his contract runs out July 1st, right? So we put, and I think Mark Stowe talked about it on the radio today, we put in a provision that in case the expansion draft was to happen earlier, that no move protection goes away, and it just says no trade, so he's eligible for the expansion draft. And that's all it was just the wording in case, for whatever reason, the expansion date was before July 1st, it's not a no move for expansion. So he'll be eligible. And then, because the other part of that is, as of July 1st, he's, technically a free agent. So So I guess it's just depending on where they have the expansion draft. So that's why we put that wording in the contract.
It's key for you to protect your young
Yeah,
defensemen.
we have some young defensemen that we'll need to protect for expansion, and so we talked it out with him and he understands it. So that's why we put the language in there.
That's still considered a no movement clause, just with some language, right?
Right.
Looking ahead to free agency, how difficult is it to try and address the short-term roster needs without sacrificing the bigger-term picture with a contract that could potentially be a problem down the line?
Yeah, well, we're gonna look at things that make sense for us going forward. We feel we got some real good young players, and we want to keep developing them and getting them better, and they're gonna play lots of minutes for us. So we want to try to bring in some players that can support them and make it easier for them to keep playing and developing in a winning environment. So that's, I guess, how I best answer that.
Jim, there's been some criticism like in past years about having to overterm on certain contracts at free agency. The fact that in this case you guys were able to stand firm and make sure you were protected, for a 2-year, shorter term, what does that say about your approach going into this free agency that you might not give that extra year that you may have in the past to get guys?
That's a fair statement. Like we want to be in on free agency, but we want to make sure it makes sense with where we're going as an organization with our young players. Like in a couple of years, we're going to have some good players that are going to need new contracts, and we got to make sure that we're prudent and leaving room to get those players signed long term for us.